Okay, so we've been talking about fear. And last class, we saw that emotional thinking is governed by desire. So when a lot of our emotions will be tied in with desire. Fear gets tied in with desire, anger, jealousy, greed, all these emotions, excitement will get tied in with desire. So to become more aware of what it is that we desire helps us to understand exactly what the fear is. And the fear will be not attaining the desire, and it will manifest as loss or as failure, as rejection. What are some of the other things? Insult, a loss of capability. All of these things would lead to fear, and possibly even more that I'm not even able to think of right now. So when we spoke about the threat, is the threat real? Then we saw that the threat can be completely in our head, and it doesn't exactly exist in the world outside, but we think it exists, so we think other people don't like us, but actually they're not even thinking of us. They're just happily doing their own thing, and we think that the spotlight's on me and everyone's noticing me. Or the threat can be perceived that this person's action is seen as a threat. We think they aggressive, or we think they sarcastic. We think that, and so we think that behavior is threatening to my well-being, my security, my confidence, my role, my prestige, my status. And then we spoke about potential, that something could happen, but there's different levels of probabilities of when and how these things could happen. Could get sick, but right now, probability is very low. So the term that we see, the term that we hear being spoken very often is face your fears. And some people really don't like this term. They don't want to be told to face their fears. No. Yeah, you agree. You don't want to be told to face your fears. So to understand exactly even what this means, face your fears. And the other day somebody was here and she was talking to me and she said, you have to take the bull by its horns. And I thought, oh, wow. Like that's taking, facing your fears to a whole new level. You have to take the bull by its horns. I haven't actually heard that term before, but of course you understand immediately what it means. It's like, the bull's going to be stronger than you, though. Highly probable that the bull's going to be stronger than you. So, what is this facing the fear? No, thank you. Facing the fear simply means understanding if the threat is perceived, potential, or real, or imagined, right? And there's lots of overlap. There's lots and lots of overlap. So for example, a parent being upset that the kids haven't come back home. They were supposed to be home half an hour ago. They still aren't home yet. That's a genuine, very normal, everyday kind of fear that we see in the world. And so is it a perceived threat? Is it a potential threat? Is it an imagined threat? It's probably all three. Yeah. Is it potential? Well, anything can happen at any time, so it is potential. But the parent dreams up the most horrendous scenarios that they have seen in any of the most recent Netflix series. And so then they think, this is happening to my child, and all of that's just imagined because, you know, it's unlikely, highly, highly unlikely. And so there is some probability, but we add lots of spice to the probability with our imagination. And we obviously want their safety, and so we perceive lots of different things as them not being safe. Depending on how strict the person is as a parent. So I've even heard parents saying, well, now they won't get enough sleep. And so the perceived threat is that they don't get enough sleep. You know, never mind that their life could be in danger. The parents worrying that they need this much amount of sleep for them to be coping well with school tomorrow. So we can perceive different things as threats. And I know it's a very natural thing for a person to be worried when someone's late. But I'm trying to show you that perceived, potential, imagined, everything gets all mixed up. It's not so clear cut. So now, parent worried about the kid not coming home on time. Face your fear means understand which thoughts are my imagination going stir crazy. Understand which thoughts are valid, legit concern as a parent. And then, what can I do about it? So obviously the kid's not going to pick up their phone because they're late and they don't want to be yelled at by you. So even if you do ring, they're not going to pick up. So you call the friend's phone. Or, you know, whatever you think of a logical way. Their friend says, we fine. Okay, hang up. Don't scream. Because next time, all you actually want to know is, hey, fine. Leave the screaming for next day morning. Just let me know you're fine. We'll do the screening later on. Then, so potential, check. They fine, no need. Imagined was anyway unnecessary from word go. So discount, dismiss, negate. And perceive, you can check again, right? Well, what is it that's the threat? Okay, so they're tired tomorrow, no big deal. Oh wait, no, they've hurt themselves. What do we do about it? Right? Do we go straight to the hospital? Do we do this? Do we just get them a Panadol and they'll be fine? So facing fear doesn't mean we have to run at it head on. Facing fear simply means because there's this whole range of thoughts that happen, to face it so that I can self-diagnose the imagined stuff, what I am perceiving, and sometimes it's a value, right? With perceived threats, it's my value that I need to always, I can't think of an example now, maybe something cultural, right? Have to get to the temple, have to finish the prayer, have to adhere to the fast, don't want to break the fast. Maybe it's something like that, right? And so I perceive this to be extremely important. And I don't want to change that. I want to continue to perceive this to be extremely important. And so self-check, is it my perception? Yes. Do I still want to continue perceiving it this way? Yes. But then it can be something like somebody says something to me, or maybe I'm not going to get the job, and then, or maybe I got a job, but now I'm going to be let go. So perception, people are going to think I'm a failure because I'm getting let go from this job. So now let's check, is this my perception? Yes. Do I want to hold on to this perception? Maybe some people might want to. maybe some people won't want to, right? Because we have social conditionings, we have cultural conditionings, we have our own values that we want to adhere to. But at least I can check. So recently somebody was discussing with me, and there were two potential jobs that they could take. And one was a very high status job, which would mean a lot of stress. It didn't sound as exciting. One was a low status job. And every time he spoke about it, he sounded so excited because it was a new field and he would get this opportunity to really make a difference. And then he's like, wait, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, actually, it sounds to me like you do know what to do. No, I don't. I really don't know what to do. Because our perception is, how do I let go of such a high status job? Like, that's just foolish. Okay, perception. High status job is valuable. Perception. High status job is preferable. Do I want to change my perception? Maybe. Maybe new learning adventure is preferable. So just because it's a perceived threat doesn't necessarily mean I want to change it. Sometimes I will want to change my perception. Sometimes I won't want to change my perception. An example that Swamiji gives in the Ramayana is Ramchandraji, whenever he did something, he had incredible respect for his elders, for his parents, and for his gurus. And so there's a very small incident where him and Lakshman went out sightseeing when they reached Mithila. You know, new place, you go look see. And then he just notices the time and he says, Lakshman, it's going to be time for Sandhya Vandan and we're not there to serve Gurudev. And so literally they run back. And what was the anxiety about? Not to fail in serving their Guru. Now, is this a threat? Like, would Guru be so upset that they weren't there in time to do X, Y, Z? Sorry, I should have set up the scenario properly. Before they went sightseeing, they took permission from said Guru. Said Guru said, very good. You didn't even have to take permission, which you took, very good. And they went up sightseeing. Mithila. So would Guru be devastated? No. Would Guru forgive them? Of course. So why should they have the anxiety not to fail in their responsibility or their opportunity to serve? That's a value. Do they want to change that perception? No. We care. We care what Guru thinks. We want to be there. We want to do the best we can for this person. If we change the person to good friend in a party, we care what this person thinks. Most of us do. Do we want to change that perception? Possibly. Possibly not. Right? Again, a good friend might be someone who has amazing values and I want to adhere to those values. Good friend might be somebody who's a bit relaxed in their values. And maybe I shouldn't take their standard as seriously. I love them, but maybe I want to adhere to this set. So perception should be my decision rather than a thought that has been created by a circumstance or previous experiences. Previous experiences make me feel this way. I have to check, in this scenario, do I want to continue feeling this way? Sometimes the answer will be yes. Sometimes the answer will be no. But we don't actually stop to make the decision. we let previous experiences decide for us. So if it's a perceived threat, face my fear means understand what my perception is and why, and then evaluate, is it beneficial to have that perception? Yep. Super clear. Any clear questions? No. Why are you looking? Super clear. Okay, great. Perceive, done. Imagine was also done. Imagine was done, right? I did speak about it. Just basically all imagined, delete. To do with crazy imagination, delete. How to delete imagined threats. So last week when we spoke about emotional thinking and rational thinking, the minute I realize my thinking is highly emotional, stop. And what helps me is I start laughing at myself. Like, of course, you're the hero in this drama, or of course, you're the victim in this drama. And how much drama do you need in your head before you're going to let it all go? And even if the drama continues, just I'm laughing that the drama is continuing in my head. And I recognize it as drama queen behavior. The imagination doesn't need decision. It just needs to be laughed at or to be dismissed. And I have to acknowledge it for exactly what it is, entertainment. We watch Netflix, and then when there's no actual Netflix going on, we create in our head. Entertainment. And how seriously am I going to take the series in Netflix? The same amount of seriousness I need to take with the drama I create in my head. But I can only do that when I recognize it to be drama queen behavior. I like this whole, drama queen can now be both masculine or feminine. I love this. Yeah, we don't acknowledge that imagination is imagination. We think it's real. That's why we have to be clear whether it's perceived or imagined. So if it's real, then you have to assess, with this perception, what do I want to do? So even if you're taking imagined to be perceived, then you apply the technique of perception. Doesn't matter if it's imagined or perception, just apply a technique. And they both work, even if it's imagined and I apply. Am I going to adhere to this perception? Do I need to change? Do I need to make, you'll come to a point, right? I'm going to stick to it or I'm not going to stick to it. But now there's no more fear because I've thought it through and I've made a decision and I've made peace with whatever the outcome is. Like I said, if there's me and you and I decide you don't like me, or I'm perceiving you don't like me, or I imagine you don't like me, and then I've decided it's okay if you don't, no more fear. But the, oh no, you don't like me, oh no, I have to get you to like me, that's going to cause so much fear. So let's say I do want you to like me, and I'm perceiving you don't. Stop, have conversation. I'm sorry if I offended you. And you'll be like, huh? Who are you again? I'll be like, oh, let me introduce myself. So now you know it was all imagined. Now you know it was all perceived. So next time, you know. But you did some. So face your fear means just this. To evaluate which thought it is and then apply the cure is not the right word. Intervention is very too high funder. Apply the processes that are needed as per that. Yeah, strategy is the perfect word. So figure out which thought it is and apply the strategy related to that. So, okay, imagine, saga, threat, delete, perceived, evaluate if you want to continue with this perception or not. If you do want to continue, evaluate what has to be done in this scenario. Potential. Potential means it could happen, it couldn't happen. So the strategy to deal with potential threats is, firstly, so there's a few. The most powerful one is stay in the present moment. The second one is anticipate the scenarios that could happen and see how best you can prepare for each one. Example, I'm getting medical tests done and there is a possibility of a quite horrible disease. So now, what can be done? Start looking. Can I afford? Is there a way to get the finances to be able to afford? Already start getting the finances. Yeah. Is there a treatment? Where are the treatments? Where are the best treatments? Which one will suit me? Already start looking for it. If I need emotional support, who are the people that I will rely on for that emotional support? And so I'm actually doing whatever I can if that be the outcome. Preparing. And so a lot of life, we are advised, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. And even businesses will do this. Well, everything. That's why we buy wolves and keep them in safe places. That's why we save for a rainy day. We hope for the best, we prepare for the worst. So now there's a possibility something could go wrong. Entire cities are planned this way. In the possibility of a fire, there's a system in place in the city. In Hong Kong, when buildings are built with already the possibility of typhoon, and so some leeway for the building to be able to shake so that it will not be shattered in a typhoon. We prepare. As far as possible, there's going to be things that we cannot prepare for, but to help us to feel safe and to help us to deal with the fear, we prepare. We think of these are the scenarios that can happen. Sometimes it's not just one scenario, sometimes it's 2, 3 different scenarios that could happen. If for scenario A, prepare this way, for scenario B, prepare this way, for scenario C, prepare this way, for scenario D, I can't do anything, okay. I can't do it. What does this do? Fear makes us feel helpless. And so this is us empowering ourselves, doing what we can do. There's going to be things we can't do, but what we can do, we do to help us feel more empowered. Some people's personality types, this really works. Other people's personality types, the more they think about it, the more anxious they get. So this strategy doesn't work for them. So you'll have to see if it works for you or if it doesn't work for you. The first strategy works for everyone. What was the first one? Stay in the present moment. Because the truth is, there's always uncertainty. Always, always, always. The more we think of how uncertain it is, the more we'll drive ourselves crazy. And if I could do something about it, great. But especially when I can't do something about it, stay in the present moment. Now this, like so many other techniques, it's easier to do when you're not in the thick of the emotion. We have to practice now, when there isn't an impeding doom, to stay in the present moment. Because when fear comes along, it's hard to stay in the present moment. So we would have had to have practice to build up stamina to stay in the present moment. The third thing we can do is not an option for everyone, but it is for those who have that kind of upbringing or thinking and inclined to faith. We hold on to faith. Whenever there's uncertainty in life, which is actually always, we hold on to faith. Now, what is faith? Please, please, please be very clear on what is faith. Faith does not mean everything will be okay. That is not what faith means. How do we know faith does not mean this? Well, let's look at the life of Ramchandraji. He was exiled to the forest. His wife was kidnapped. He had to fight a war. He got back home, and everyone gossiped about his beautiful wife, so that creating problems in their relationship. Was everything okay? No. Let's look at Lord Krishna's life. His parents were jailed because of him being born. He had to go through a thunderstorm to reach his adopted parents' houses. Demons were sent to kill him every few weeks. He had the most amazing girlfriend under the sun, whom he had to go leave to kill his wicked uncle Kamsa. Is this a perfect life? Did bad things happen? So, faith does not mean everything is going to be okay. Nobody's life, everything is okay. Faith means whatever happens, we'll get through it. That's what faith means. So who am I really having faith in? Me and you. We'll get through it. Why? Because there's grace. So yes, I'm having faith in me, but I'm also having faith that there is divine grace that will help me through, that will give me strength, will give me wisdom, will give me guidance, will give me resources that I need. And so many of us, we are so blessed. We have experienced this. Resources come. People come into our life. Just suddenly, out of the blue, when we need them. Things unfold that help us to cope with whatever it is that we have to cope with. So faith is not, God will make everything okay. Sickness will get cured, divorce will get cancelled, person will come back alive. No. Faith is, we'll get through it. Whether it's the death or the relationship, or the illness, or the bankruptcy, or the global pandemic. We'll get through it. How do we know? Because that's what we have seen over the ages. So the earth has gone through World War I, World War II, so many pandemics, so many recessions, depressions, so many horrible political tyrants. There's still goodness. There's still love. There's still music. There's still poetry. There's still laughter. So, potential threat. Stay present. Do what you can. And if you believe there is a higher power, know it will help you get through it. If you don't believe there's a higher power, you'll find a way to get through it. A little bit easier to believe in higher power, because then the pressure is a little less on you. Somebody's helping me get through it. I'm still having to get through it, but somebody's helping me get through it. You don't feel as alone. It's really to our benefit that we believe in God. Okay. Actual threat, body will act instinctively. So what is facing fear? Facing fear is just understanding what the fear is, what the threat is, so that I can apply the right strategy. Sometimes in facing the fear, I realize it's imagined and poof, it all disappears. Sometimes I realize it is a threat, but it's not as bad as I thought it was. Right? Like people laughing at me. We can get so horrified to do something because people will laugh at us, and we can get so inhibited by it, and then they laugh, and it's not so bad. Okay, it wasn't the greatest, but it's also not so bad. So sometimes when we evaluate it, there is some little threat, but it's not as big as we saw it to be. And sometimes when we recognize what the threat is, we can actually eliminate it. Like with finances, we can get scared we may not have enough to be able to do this. And then there's actually ways in which we can invest or save and make sure we do have enough. Sometimes we can actually completely eliminate a threat. And sometimes maybe not completely eliminate it, but manage it very well. Or feel more empowered than we were before. Okay. So facing it doesn't mean you run into it, just go crazy. Facing it means thinking. Facing it doesn't mean you jump off a plane and go skydiving. Doesn't mean you have to be in a room full of spiders. It doesn't mean you have to go and do all those things that you were scared of. Sometimes, right? Sometimes it means, like, let's say I'm a shy, reserved person, and facing my fear means I have to speak to you, and that I might have to do. And then once I do it, I might realize, okay, that wasn't as bad as I thought. Or it really was that bad. But next time round, hopefully it won't be. Because I've slightly, it's called desensitizing. The more I do something, the less horrendous it seems. So with functional things like talking to people, or somebody who has a talent and wants to express their talent, it's scary to express their talent. You know, like when I see stand-up comedians, I'm like, wow, that's really scary. I know, because when in my class, if I crack a joke and you all don't laugh, and I'll think they won't know it was a joke, it doesn't matter. But that stand-up comedian, I mean, everybody knows he's trying to crack a joke. And so if nobody laughs, it's like, you know, really, poor dude, don't do that. So sometimes when it's wanting to express a talent or to develop a talent, then yes, we have to face the fear and actually get up there and do the talent. Go for the interview, go for the facing fear doesn't mean any, you know, outlandish thing that you have to do. It's only the ones that it's only when that fear is inhibiting me, because we know fear does. We know fear robs us of having opportunities, and it actually stifles us from living to our potential, and it can make us not shine as bright as we can shine, because we're scared to shine. Only in those cases do we actually have to take a deep breath and do the thing that seems scary, so that we can actually shine. Right? This is where we know that the fear of failure is perceived threat. Failure is not an actual threat. It's not an actual bad thing. It's just perceived to be a really bad thing. And then there's bazillion stories of how just about everyone successful has been. And so then you use that whole dialogue to yourself in your head. What was it? Edison, how many experiments he did before he got the light bulb? Some ridiculous number, right? Like 80 something. And he didn't give up. He failed 87 times before he got the light bulb. I can't remember the number. But, you know, and then so-and-so, Elvis Presley, at his first audition was told you should get a day job. Like, how bad that person must have felt when Elvis became the legend he became. J.K. Rowling was told not to write. No one wanted to publish her books. So many. That's the thing, you're telling yourself all these things, and then you go up and you try your stand-up comedy routine, or you try applying for the job, or you try talking to someone to be able to make more friends. That's when that's the moments where you know my perception can change. Those are the ones that you actually do. The other ones doesn't really need to be taking the bull by the horns. Only the ones where if we don't do it, we're gonna regret. Right? There's gonna come a point in our life where when we look back at we had opportunities And we let fear win, and we didn't embrace the opportunity. And we'll think, why did I do that? And we will have let ourselves down. Never mind anyone else. We would have let ourselves down. And so this is when we are evaluating the fear. This is one of the things, this is one of the strategies with perceived fear and even potential fear. If I don't face the fear, or if I don't take the step, or if I don't do this, if I don't brave it, will I regret? And if I think even slightly, I will regret, then do it. No matter how scared you are, be brave enough to do it. Because being blessed to see so many lives and so many journeys, really one of the most horrendous things is regret that we didn't do. So facing it is first inside, and then facing it is outside. Fear. I'm talking about fear. The facing of the fear has to first be inside. Because the interesting thing about fear is that we won't even acknowledge it. We try so hard to dodge it, run away from it. And because that's one of the mechanisms of fear, right? One of the mechanisms of dealing with fear is flight. And so that's what we do. We run away. In our own thinking, we run away. But because it's just a perceived fear, we don't need to run away. In fact, running away is denying us the opportunity or inhibiting us to live our potential. And so if you listen to TED Talks now, there is so many TED Talks about how they had to just be brave for that first, whatever it is that they did. That first interview, that first article that they wrote, that first song that they sang, that first conversation that they had. And they were so scared, and they were so scared, and they were so scared. And then when it was over, they realized they could do it. So fear, the journey, or the solution to overcoming fear is step one, to have courage, to be brave. And we know that the very word courage means fear is there. If there's no fear, it's not courage. It's you just being you, doing what you do. But because fear is there, and I'm still doing it, that's courage. And it's different things for different people. We can actually, you know, the first time I had to speak in front of Guruji, I could hear my heart beating louder than I could hear my voice. And the sound of my heart beating was so distracting that it was like, I couldn't hear my thoughts, I couldn't hear my voice, I could only hear my heart beating. And this was test, huh? Guruji listening to us while we were studying in the ashram. It was a test to see how good we had learned over the last 2 years. And I could only hear my heart beating. And the voice, the first word was a croak. It was like it, just to make things worse. And whatever you do when you're, no, it's fine. It's fine. When you, you know, like if you're sitting there, if you're being tested by Guruji and you're really scared, the worst thing you can do in that moment is look at him. And that's what I did. I looked over at him. I have no recollection of what I said that day. Zero. Brave is when you do it, even though you're really feeling all the symptoms of fear. And this is what I was talking about last week about you go from the thinking of the reptile brain to cortex, or if we use Gita language, we go from mind to intellect. So your whole body is screaming, run. And you ignore it because you know there's no real danger. When we are brave often enough, it becomes a quality, our personality. It becomes a part of who we are. Just like patience, just like kindness, just like discipline. When we practice to be brave, it actually starts to become a habit in us to be brave. And so we'll get the sign of, and the rest of the mind will say, I got this. And then those are the people who take the bull by the horns because they've developed the personality of. Brave becomes a part of who they are. And so it's something we can learn, and it's something we can develop, and it's something that can become very much a part of who we are. Different things will inspire us at different times. So I actually have no recollection of this incident, but it gets narrated in my family, and so it obviously has happened. So my sister and I would walk to school, and there was a dog on the street that we lived in who would bark very loudly every time we walked past. And so apparently, my sister would get really scared. And then I would come along and say, you know, I'll look after you. And held her hand and took her past that house when the dog was in. I have no recollection of this. But if I did it, my motivation would have been her welfare is more important than me being scared of the dog. Different things will propel us to be brave. But the first and foremost one that will really work is love. When you love, you will want to be brave. So find something you love so much that it inspires you to be brave. Once brave starts becoming a part of our personality, we start to become really good at identifying that there's no actual threat. And then we grow to fearlessness. Fearlessness means there's no fear there. So already we're experiencing with some things. For some personality types, they love being in the limelight. They love being the light of the party, life of the party. Other personality types, even if 2 or 3 people look at them, too much attention. The person who is the life of the party is fearless in that scenario. They don't need courage. They actually enjoy themselves. The other person will need courage because they fearful. Until they do it enough to know there's no threat, then slowly they can graduate to fearless. In this way, in many aspects of our life, we can go from being afraid to brave to fearless. Dead battery. With so many things, we can make this journey. Afraid of failure. Be brave until we are fearless of failure. We muck up royally and everyone was like, that didn't work. And you're like, yeah, I didn't, did it? What should we try now? We can reach there. We can even reach fearlessness of failure, fearlessness of insult. We can. These are things very, very doable. We can be fearless of quite a few different things because remember, a lot of it is perceived threats, imagined threats. If we brave initially, we start to change our perception. It's no longer a threat. If it's no longer a threat, I am now free. Fearless. Fearless means I'm free. But there's some fears that are a little bit trickier. And just always need us to be a little bit brave. Those are usually ones to do with the well-being of ourselves and our loved ones. So will we never be free of fear? We can. And so next week, we'll speak of that fear. Which one? Fear of death. It's a big one. So we did all the small ones first. So you'll have 1 week to be fearless with all the small ones. And next week, we'll deal with the big one. I'll pause here for today. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhave Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritamgamaya Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Guru Hari Om